The forest smelled of smoke and desperation as Rick adjusted his helmet and charged into the blaze. This wasn't the typical house fire or careless camper's bonfire. This was something else entirely. The object at the center of the inferno didn't belong in this world. The twisted metal gleamed with an otherworldly hue, like molten silver mixed with starlight. It hummed faintly, even over the roar of the flames. "Why do I always get the weird calls?" Rick muttered, shouldering his axe and stepping into the wreckage. Inside, the air was hotter than anything he'd felt in his years on the job. It wasn't just the fire. Something was wrong here. The walls pulsed faintly, like they were alive. He pushed forward, sweat soaking his gear, and then he saw her, a figure curled in the corner, illuminated by flickering flames. She wasn't human. That much was obvious. Her skin shimmered with a translucent glow, and her hair, if you could call it that, floated as if underwater. The patterns on her body moved, like living tattoos shifting with her shallow breaths. She was barely conscious, her eyes half open, radiating a soft, golden light. "Holy! You're real," Rick whispered. Then louder. "Hey! Can you hear me?" Her eyes fluttered, and she let out a faint, melodic sound, almost like a hum. Rick took that as a yes. He crouched and carefully slid his arms under her. Her body was warm, almost too warm, and light, lighter than she should have been. As he lifted her, her eyes snapped open, locking onto his. "Big strong," she murmured, her voice melodic but halting, like she was tasting the words for the first time. "Yeah, that's me. Let's get you out of here." She clung to him, her arms wrapping tightly around his neck. Too tightly. Rick winced as she pressed against him, and for a moment, he wondered if he just signed up for something way above his pay grade. Her glowing skin made it hard to focus, the light dancing across his face like a living kaleidoscope. The ship groaned ominously, and Rick snapped back to reality. "All right, lady, time to move?" She didn't make it easy. She kept trying to help by grabbing at things, pieces of the ship that promptly crumbled to ash when touched. Her legs dangled awkwardly, one nearly knocking his axe loose. "Could you maybe not do that?" Rick grunted as he navigated the wreckage. "Not do?" she echoed, tilting her head in confusion. Her glowing eyes studied him like he was a particularly fascinating puzzle. "Never mind. Just hold on." He stumbled out of the flames, her radiant figure still clinging to him like some alien goddess plucked from the wreckage. The other firefighters stopped and stared. One even dropped his hose. "What the hell is that?" his buddy Mike asked, wide-eyed. "Don't ask," Rick said, panting. "Just get a blanket or something." She seemed offended by the suggestion. "No. Need covering," she said, straightening slightly. The words were slow and deliberate, but the meaning was clear. "Yeah, well, Earth rules," Rick muttered, pulling his own jacket around her as best he could. She blinked, her expression unreadable, but she didn't protest further. The paramedics approached, but she tightened her grip on Rick, almost growling. "No! Stay! Lady, they're just trying to help." "No! You, only you." Her words were clunky, but the message was clear enough. Rick sighed. "Great. Just what I needed." As the flames died down, the ship hissed and crackled like it was sighing its last breath. Rick's team worked to contain the remnants, but his focus remained on the glowing woman wrapped around him like a clingy cat. "I don't suppose you've got an ID or, I don't know, a space passport?" he asked dryly. She tilted her head, her glowing tattoos shifting in response. "You, save. Now yours." Rick blinked. "Wait, what?" "Yours," she repeated, a small smile playing at her lips. "Forever." And that was the moment Rick realized his life had just taken a very strange turn. Rick sat at the edge of his couch, still trying to process the fact that there was an alien woman in his living room. Carlyra, as she had introduced herself with an awkward bow and an oddly formal tone, was now inspecting every object like a curious toddler. "Why do Earth things hum?" she asked, holding up his blender and giving it a vigorous shake. "They don't hum," Rick said, grabbing the blender before she broke it. You're probably hearing the motor or something. Look, can you just sit down for a second? We need to figure out what the hell is going on. Lyra blinked at him, her glowing eyes filled with innocent confusion. Figure what? You saved me. Now we bonded. That is what it is. Bonded? Rick repeated, narrowing his eyes. Yes, bonded. She placed her hands on either side of her head as if that explained everything. Life joining. Now I am with you. Forever. Forever? His voice cracked slightly. Okay, nope. Let's rewind. You're saying because I pulled you out of the fire, you're, what? Stuck with me? Lyra tilted her head, her expression utterly serene. Yes. Gratitude requires binding. I owe you everything. Your thoughts, your desires, all shared now. Rick froze as her words sank in. Wait, shared? What do you mean by shared? She closed her eyes, and suddenly, Rick felt a strange, tingling warmth at the back of his skull. It was like someone had flipped a switch inside his brain. Images flashed, his childhood dog, his favorite sandwich, and then, to his horror, the memory of her glowing skin pressed against him during the rescue. Oh no. No, no, no. You're in my head? Lyra opened her eyes, her expression triumphant. Yes. Bonded. Stop saying bonded like it's normal. Rick shouted, standing up and pacing the room. She looked genuinely puzzled. This not normal for you? On our world, it is great honor. You saved me, so how do you say? Share all. Look, lady on Earth, people say thank you, maybe buy someone a coffee, but they don't telepathically move in. Lyra seemed to consider this for a moment before nodding. Then I will thank you. What is coffee? Rick groaned, rubbing his temples. He had no idea how to deal with this. As he tried to think of a plan, a sudden, vivid thought interrupted him, an image of Lyra leaning close, her glowing tattoos shimmering as she whispered in his ear. Whoa! Stop that! Stop what? You're projecting things. Her cheeks flushed a faint purple, and she looked genuinely apologetic. I do not control. You think. I feel. This is insane, Rick muttered. He sat down again, shaking his head. Okay, look. You can't just barge into someone's brain. It's invasive. And seriously, what happens if I just unbond or whatever? Her expression turned somber, and she sat beside him, her glowing tattoos dimming slightly. Unbonding, impossible. Would harm me. Harm you. Forever is forever. Rick stared at her, trying to decide if she was messing with him. But there was no guile in her expression, only sincerity. So, I'm stuck with you, he said finally. Lyra nodded solemnly. Yes. But I will make good. I will repay. That's what I'm afraid of, Rick muttered. She perked up at his tone, leaning closer until her face was inches from his. You fear? No need. I am skilled. Many talents. What do you desire? Rick felt his face heat up as she stared at him, completely oblivious to how suggestive her words sounded. I don't desire anything. Lyra frowned, tilting her head. No desires? Humans strange. Not like that, he blurted, standing up again to put some space between them. Just don't do anything weird, okay? Let's take this one step at a time. Lyra nodded, her glowing eyes brightening again. Yes. Steps. Many steps. Together. Rick sighed, realizing this was going to be a long, long night. Rick had no idea what he was getting himself into when he agreed to take Lyra out for a simple dinner. The plan was supposed to be easy: grab some takeout, have a few awkward conversations, and maybe try to figure out how to get her back to wherever she came from. But Lyra had other ideas. So, this dining is what humans do to bond? She asked as they entered the restaurant, her eyes wide as she scanned the interior. Rick winced. Yeah? You know, eating food, talking, casual. Lyra nodded sagely, looking around the room. I see. So this is the sacred human bonding place. A restaurant, yes? Rick rubbed the back of his neck. Well, kind of. It's a place where you get food, but okay, let's just sit down, yeah? They took a seat at a table near the window, and Rick awkwardly adjusted his chair. He hadn't expected her to be so intense. She didn't seem to understand the concept of personal space at all. Her eyes never left him, and every now and then she'd reach out to touch his arm, sending an odd tingle through his skin. What do we do now? Lyra asked, practically vibrating with anticipation. Rick grabbed the menu. We, look at this. Pick what you want to eat. He handed her the menu. Here, you pick. She took it and began reading the menu, backwards. This one. No. This looks strange. What is? Hamburger? Hamburger, Rick repeated, trying not to laugh. It's ground beef, with bread. You know, a sandwich. Her eyes widened. Meat bread, this is sacred? Humans eat the flesh of creatures? Rick winced. It's just food, Lyra. It's how humans do it. We, sacred ritual, eat flesh. Lyra interrupted, her voice full of awe. This must be a special bonding ceremony. She placed her hands on her chest, her eyes closed in reverence. Rick blinked, his brain struggling to comprehend what was happening. It's just a burger, he said, trying to calm her down. But Lyra wasn't listening. She stood up, hands raised in the air as if performing some kind of religious dance. I accept the sacred offering, she intoned. I join with you in the feast of human flesh. Rick looked around the restaurant. People were starting to stare. Okay, no, sit down, he hissed, pulling her back into her seat. This is not a sacred offering, it's just food. Lyra sat down, still looking mystified. But you are bonding with me, yes? This is your ritual? Rick could feel his face turning red. No! It's not a ritual. It's just dinner. Dinner. She repeated the words slowly, trying to grasp the concept. So, I sit and eat. This is the ritual? Yes. Yes, exactly, Rick said, his patience wearing thin. He motioned to the waiter who was standing there with a raised eyebrow. We'll just take the usual. 2 burgers, please. The waiter didn't ask questions, just scribbled down the order and walked off. As soon as he was gone, Rick turned to Lyra, who was now sniffing the air with an almost exaggerated curiosity. You're going to have to be more subtle about this, Rick said, lowering his voice. You're not in a sacred ritual, Lyra. This is just regular human behavior. And if you keep acting like that, people are going to think, well, that we're doing something weird. Lyra's eyes lit up. Oh, we must complete the ritual before it is too late, yes? No, Rick said, exasperated. Not a ritual. Just dinner. Okay? I don't even know what you're talking about. The waiter returned with their food, setting down 2 large burgers in front of them. Lyra looked at the food like it was some sort of alien artifact, her glowing tattoos flashing erratically as she leaned closer. I must complete the sacred meal, she muttered, picking up her burger and holding it out like it was a holy relic. Rick slapped his palm to his forehead. Oh no. She bit into the burger, and the sound that followed was something between a gasp of pleasure and a strangled moan. Her glowing tattoos pulsed, her eyes wide as she chewed slowly, savoring every bite. This is amazing, she gasped, taking another bite. Your flesh is better than I ever imagined. Rick had to take a deep breath. Okay, let's just calm down a second. But Lyra wasn't listening. She continued to eat with abandon, eyes rolling in ecstasy as she practically inhaled the burger. By the time she was done, Rick hadn't even taken a single bite of his own meal. That was magnificent, she said, looking at him with a glow in her eyes. You have honored me. You saved me. Now I repay you. Rick opened his mouth to protest, but she had already scooted closer to him. "What are you doing?" he asked, his voice rising in panic. "You bonded," she said seriously. "Now we share. We join, yes? I will give you more of the sacred rituals." Rick's heart dropped into his stomach as she leaned in closer, too close. Her breath was warm against his ear, her voice a soft, melodic whisper. "No, no, no," Rick muttered, realizing he was in deep trouble. This is not how we do things." But Lyra wasn't hearing him. She was already pushing him back into the seat, her hands roaming to his chest, her alien glow intensifying as she breathed deeply, her gaze locked onto him with a mix of curiosity and something far more dangerous. "Let us complete the bonding," she said, voice hushed, as she began to unbutton his shirt. Rick's mind was racing. "What bonding?" "No!" He scrambled out of the seat, practically knocking over his drink. "I did not sign up for this." "Not sign up?" Lyra blinked in confusion. "You saved me. You honored me. Now we must." "I didn't save you for a sacred ritual," Rick shouted, backing away. "This is a misunderstanding. A big one." Lyra looked around, her expression entirely uncomprehending. But you told me we bond. This is how your kind bonds, is it not?" Rick's head was spinning, the restaurant around him spinning with it. "Oh God! This is going to take forever." Rick couldn't take it anymore. Lyra was practically vibrating with excitement, her glowing tattoos flashing like she had just been hooked up to a supercharged battery. She kept telling him that she had to repay him, which only made things more awkward by the second. After the dinner debacle, he didn't know if he was exhausted or just plain frustrated, but he knew one thing for sure: he needed a plan. "Okay, Lyra," Rick said, running a hand through his hair. "We need to talk." She stopped in her tracks, turning to him with wide, innocent eyes. "Talk? But you saved me. I must show you gratitude. That is our way." Rick's stomach twisted. "I get it, okay? But the whole repayment thing? It's not what I signed up for. I didn't save you so you could invade my head and then, like I don't know, become my shadow. I am not a shadow," Lyra said, offended. "I am your eternal companion. Your thoughts are mine, and mine are yours. It is our bond. I will be with you forever." Rick gave an exasperated sigh. "That's the part that's freaking me out, Lyra. You're literally in my head. I can't even think straight without you popping in with comments about how I should be thanking you. It's like I'm being followed around by a hyperactive, alien." She tilted her head as if she were considering this for the first time. "Hyperactive, alien? Is that how you see me?" Rick rubbed his face. "No, that's not. Look, can we just not do the telepathy thing for a second? I need a moment to breathe, okay?" For once, Lyra seemed to listen. She stood still, watching him carefully. Her expression was one of sincere concern, which, to Rick's surprise, made him feel bad. "I did not mean to cause distress," she said softly. Rick stared at her for a moment, feeling the weight of the situation. "It's not that. It's just, you're so intense. Everything's so, all at once. And now we're what? Partners?" Her eyes brightened. "Yes. Partners in everything." Rick buried his face in his hands. "Oh God, I can't do this. I must understand," she continued, seemingly oblivious to his distress. "Human customs are strange to me. But I will learn. You will teach me the sacred rituals of Earth, and then I will." "No, Lyra!" Rick shouted. "I'm not teaching you any sacred rituals. You don't need to repay me, okay? This whole thing is insane. You're an alien." Her expression hardened slightly, though there was still an innocent confusion behind her eyes. "I am not human. But I am here because of you. I owe you everything." Rick closed his eyes and took a deep breath. "You don't owe me anything. It was just a fire. I did what anyone would have done." Lyra took a tentative step forward, her tone now soft. But you saved me. And you must be repaid, or my people will think I am dishonoring you. I will be dishonored. Rick froze at her words. Wait, what? You have a whole society that will judge you for this? Yes. She nodded. The bond is sacred. It is an eternal connection. If I fail to repay you, it is a disgrace to my people. And to me. Rick's mind was spinning. He had no idea how to navigate this. He hadn't asked for this, but he couldn't ignore how deeply committed Carlyra was to her culture. He could hear her thoughts buzzing around him, and the way she tried to mirror his own frustrations. It was like living with an echo. He let out a long breath. All right. You wanna repay me? Fine. But you gotta stop with the whole telepathic bond thing. I need some space, Carlyra. I understand. She nodded, her eyes earnest. No more invading your thoughts. I will respect your need for space. Rick wasn't sure if he should be relieved or terrified. He had no idea how much of her space he'd actually get, but it was a step in the right direction. Still, Carlyra didn't seem like the type to give up easily. So, how do we handle this? Rick asked, rubbing his temples. I will follow your lead, Carlyra said, her voice filled with an intensity that made him second-guess himself. I will learn Earth customs, as you say. We will be equal in this. I will not burden you. I just want to be close. Rick's head was pounding. You are a burden, though, he muttered, half to himself. Carlyra heard him anyway, her eyes softening. I will change that. I promise. I will make you proud. I will show you that I am worth your sacrifice. He looked up at her, meeting her earnest gaze. Despite all the strange, uncomfortable moments, Rick realized something. Carlyra wasn't the crazy alien invader he initially thought. She genuinely cared. Okay, Rick said slowly, rubbing his forehead. Fine. But you've gotta chill. No more telepathic bonding or repaying me with weird alien stuff. Got it? Got it, Carlyra replied, her glowing eyes softening with what Rick could only describe as relief. And thank you for your patience, Rick. I will learn. Together, we will find balance. Rick took another deep breath. Yeah, we will.